Hello again, and welcome to another Mage Tower guide. This time we're going to be tackling the Prot Warrior. So before we get into the fight, let's just go over a couple things first. Let's start off with the consumables. We're going to need strength flasks, we're going to need potions of prolonged power, we're going to need bear tartar, we're going to need drums of fury or the mountain, and if you want to, you can use an augment rune as well. I want to reiterate that for this one, bear tartar really is an absolute must. It just helps so much with getting around the fight encounter area. So make sure you're getting that one. For the talents, I've seen some people use Stormbolt in that first tier. I can't imagine doing this without Shockwave. So that would be what I highly recommend, though you are more than welcome to try and see what works best for you. For the next tier, Impending Victory, there's really no other options there. I used Renewed Fury. The fight is kind of long, and you're going to have Ignore Pain up a lot of the time, and just overall, I think it will do more damage throughout the fight. Bounding Strides is going to give you the most mobility there, and that's what's really important. Devastator is going to be giving you the most damage. And then Booming Voice in combination with Anger Management gives you an insane amount of burst through Battle Cry and Demoralizing Shout. So I think that there's really no better combination here, and that's the talent setup that I used. And I've played around with a couple other ones, and I really just don't see how any of the other ones would be better than this one. But again, feel free to try out anything else. This is what I used for the fight. So let's really quickly go over the fight. So you're going to want to make sure that you only take 4 or 5 stacks of the debuff that reduces your maximum health, unless you have a way to handle it past those stacks. You're going to want to be surviving the mind rends. You're going to want to be interrupting the drain lives. You're going to want to make sure that you're handling the eyes in some way. Make sure you're staring at them when they're casting Inquisitive Stare on you, and you're going to need to kill these things to regenerate health. This is what's going to be proccing your Victory Rush. So make sure that you're using these as a health resource. That's the only way you're going to be able to get through this fight. There are going to be ads that will spawn around the room around every 30 to 40 seconds, depending on the attempt. You're going to want to make sure that you're gathering these up and killing them as fast as they can. They apply another debuff on you called Psi Talons that will increase the damage you take by Inquisitor Varus's Mind Rends by a 10% per stack. So make sure that you're handling this stack as well. You'll need to stun these guys to delay it, or use one of Velen's healing orbs to give yourself a chance for those to drop off. The next ad you'll be needing to handle are the Smoldering Infernals. They have 2 abilities. The first one is Smash, which is what can knock you off. It just does a straight line knockback. If you get hit by this, you're probably going to lose. And his second ability is called Fell Resonance. And the name doesn't really matter, but as you'll see in this clip right here, he's kind of pulsing this fell little circle around him. All that's just doing is just dealing damage. He also, with each time he does that, will be dealing 10% damage to himself. So all you have to do to kill these is basically just let them kill themselves until they get to 20%. At 20% they stop doing this and they take additional damage. So at that point you can just kind of cleave them down, but there's never a reason on any of the tanks for that matter to ever focus on these guys. Okay, moving on to High Lord Cruel himself. After you kill Varus, you'll be moving on to him. The first thing you're going to need to be able to handle is Annihilates. This is what we're going to be using our cooldown rotation on. We're going to want to Spell Reflect Twisted Reflection. This is a ability that if he does manage to cast it on you, every time he hits you, he'll be recovering health. At that point, it's basically a wipe and you'll need to start over, but if you use Spell Reflection, you'll actually get that on him, so that every time you hit him, you'll be healing for 5% max health every single time you hit him. It's basically the best way to heal yourself in the second phase. And then finally, he will also cast an ability called Nether Stomp. Nether Stomp spawns these green pools around the platform. He'll basically jump to you, and you're just going to want to get out of them as fast as you can, as they take a lot of damage. So those are the main things you're going to have to handle. You're going to have to handle the ads in both phases. And so, yeah, that's pretty much the fight. And this is how I did it. Okay, So I'm actually going to go over my burst real quick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-pot, then I'm going to charge in and use Demoralizing Shout, Battle Cry, and Ignore Pain all at once, and then start using Shield Slam and Revenge and just start going in my normal damage rotation. Just trying to get as much of those damage buffs as I can at once so I can do the most damage possible. I decided to take it to 6, and then I'm going to use Spell Reflect. Now it doesn't actually reflect it back onto him, but what it does do is it reduces your magic damage taken. So that was a way that you can handle going above like 4 or 5 stacks. It just makes it a lot more manageable. So I'm going to gather these adds up, and you'll see I dip really low because of those side talons. I'm going to cleave them down, and at this point, my basic plan is to just cleave those last 2 down with Varus. I'm going to go back in with Varus, stun them all, and just continue my cleaving. As you can just see right there, Battle Cry was back up again. So again, I'm just doing as much damage as I possibly can to Varus, going back out at 5, and just start killing these adds to reactivate my Victory Rush. So right here you'll see that the Drain Life has come out, but I'm not in a position to interrupt it yet. That's okay. If you can't interrupt it right away, it's not the end of the world. Just do it as quickly as you can. Don't rush things, and then just cleave the adds down as much as you can. So right here, I was just trying to get to the orb quickly. I didn't mean to get knocked back, but it was just I got put in a position where it was just going to be a lot of damage. So I go back in again, this time with Demoralizing Shout. And in a perfect world, you want to overlap cooldowns as much as possible, but just because of the difference of cooldown lengths, it was just a little bit hard in this one to try to make that happen all the time. So whenever you're outside of the Death and Decay and you're trying to just get as much, when you're not trying to get as much damage in on Varus, you want to be kind of thinking about where these adds are, the eyes are specifically, so you always know where you can get a heal from. Again, here I am going back in, getting these adds one more time, cleaving them down as quickly as I can. You see here I've got Side Talons, he's about to cast Mind Rend, so I absolutely needed to get that one. Otherwise I would have been toast. Right here I was just decided, you know what, I wanted to go ahead and get it over with, go ahead and start the next phase. And since he doesn't do a whole lot of damage right at the beginning, I went ahead and started it. So I decided to just go ahead and get the stun out there just to delay him a little bit so I could just get a little bit more damage without having to move around too much. For the first one, I'm just using Shield Block and Ignore Pain, and as you saw right there, I Shield reflected the Twisting Reflection, so now I have the healing buff on me, so every time I do a melee swing, I get healed for 5%. Just grabbing these guys up. I actually had a chance to use Neltharian's Fury, which is very hard to do in this fight because of how many smashes go out, so I figured I might as well. So I used Last Stand here along with the Shield Block and the Ignore Pain, and it really wasn't necessary, so that's really up to you if you want to use it or not, or if you want to use that as a as an oh shit button, but that's just where I had it planned out. And for basically that's pretty much the fight at that point. I'm just trying to gather them up, cleave them down with Cruel, and here I'm planning this out. I'm standing right over the healing orb so I can delay the Annihilate just a little bit longer so I know exactly when it's coming out. This is my Shield Slam. You see I get hit there, but as long as you can quickly get charged back going, you can get right back to him again. This is going to be the last set of adds here. I'm just going to stun them all real quick, push the last bit of damage in, and that's pretty much the fight. And as I didn't even notice, I actually had 2 healing orbs up as well. So there was actually even more I could do. One thing I could do better in this fight, and pretty much in all of my encounters that I've done across all the tanks, is trying to keep the Nether Stomps on the outside and not on top of Varus. It can get really, really crowded in the middle, and when you really need a healing orb, that can just be very, very detrimental. So outside of that, that's pretty much the whole fight. I found this, it looked pretty smooth on this attempt, but I have to say, out of all the Mage Tower tanks that I've done, this one was by far the most challenging for me. Even with the Guardian Druid, the Monk, and the Paladin. I felt like this one was actually the hardest, and maybe that's just because I'm not as good of a warrior as I would like to be, but that's just how it was for me. And yeah, that's pretty much it as I've got to say on the fight itself. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and I will try to get back to you as quickly as I can. But that's pretty much it. And yeah, I'm just constantly trying to get better at these things and trying to get better at my videos. I'll have a couple more out, so if you have any, critiques, comments, and whatnot, let me know down in the comments, and I will try to do better. I've got the Blood Death Knight one coming out next, unless I decide to do something random, kind of like some of my other videos, or I might do the Monk one next. No, I'll do the Blood Death Knight next, and then I will do the Brewmaster Monk after that, and then eventually I will get to the Demon Hunter. I don't even have a Demon Hunter at 110, but the last video I made, I didn't have a Monk at 110. So I will have those videos out shortly. But until then, I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.